One thing I want to bring to our notice is that quite apart from all these texts in ancient Sanskrit and all the arguments and the philosophy, the epistemology, the metaphysics of it all, the beauty and advantage of Advaita is it's talking about something directly presented to us, directly and continuously, openly available to us all the time. So that's why it's called the direct path. It points to a reality right here, right now, always available. In spite of our efforts, we can neither erase it nor create it. It's there. So it's good to keep that in mind, because when we plunge into all of this, we may feel confused. We may feel it's too much, it's too complex. It's not at all complex. It's good to keep in mind it's actually very simple. Advaita, for example, unlike most of the philosophies, it can be expressed in a single short sentence. You are that. I am Brahman. That's it. And when you try to understand it, all of this is useful. Now Ashtavakra is going to do something very interesting and a little different in verse number 8. Shraddhasva tata shraddhasva Shraddhasva tata sardhasva Natra moham kurushva bho Natra moham kurushva bho Jnana swarupo Bhagavan Jnana swarupo Bhagavan Atma tvam prakrite paraha Atma tvam prakrite paraha. Have faith, my child, have faith. Never confuse yourself in this. You are knowledge itself. You are the Lord, you are the self, and you are beyond nature. What Ashtavakra is telling us here is that if you're feeling bewildered by all these teachings and the philosophy and it seems too subtle, too complex, too difficult, one thing one can do straight away is, he says, just trust me. Just believe in this, I am Brahman. We believe in so many things, many of which cause so much trouble and unhappiness to us. We believe quite easily, actually. It's only when it comes to spiritual life that we become suddenly big skeptics and critics and all. We believe easily. Every advertiser knows that. The whole art and science of advertisement is predicated on that. The people know. You show something to people, whether they sort of uncritically absorb it, and that's the trick to selling products, to advertising. It works. That's why billions and billions of dollars are spent on it. So we believe, and we absorb all sorts of nonsense from the world. This sadhu, I'll tell you in Hindi and then translate. He was explaining that you are Brahman. And then he said, अच्छा चलो कुछ भी नहीं तो हम बोल रहे हैं इसीलिए मान लो. I am telling you. If nothing else, I am telling you, then just accept it because I am telling you. So he gave an example. When you were brought home from the hospital, you were born, how do you know that these are your parents, your mom and dad? And somebody said, the nurse said so. The nurse said so. And the Swami said, I'll tell you in Hindi and translate. He said, और क्या nurse से भी हम गए गुजरे हैं? Am I even less trustworthy than the nurse in the hospital? So something so important for you in your life, you take it on trust. And I am telling you, without any expectation of any material gain from you, nothing from you, I am telling you that you are Brahman. Sages and saints, masters throughout history have told us this again and again. So he says, Shraddhasvatata Shraddhaso, my child. So here, just as a father, just as a parent has only the interests of the children at heart, similarly, the spiritual master has only our interest at heart. That how can we be delivered from unhappiness, from sorrow? How can we find fulfillment? how can we reach the goal of life, the purpose of life? This is the stakes could not be higher. This is the point of it all, the point of life. And here it is presented to us directly. See, not to knock down other approaches, but since this is Advaita and we think we are pretty cool and pretty high, way up there. This way up there, I remember seeing a cartoon. So there's a hierarchy among scientists. So there's this biologist, and in front of him standing is the chemist. You know, he says, I'm superior to the biologist because all of biology ultimately depends on chemistry. And then above this guy is standing the physicist. He says, I'm a physicist. I'm superior to you guys because all of this, your chemistry and biology depends upon the elementary particles of matter, which I study. Then higher above that guy stands the applied mathematician, whose mathematics is used for all of modern physics. So I am the pure scientist, And then that cartoon, it shows way above all of them, sitting on a cloud, is the pure mathematician. He says, guys, I'm up here. So the pure mathematician who takes delight in just sheer abstraction and concept. They're supposed to be the most aloof and most elevated of all the sciences. G.H. Hardy, who's the one who invited Ramanujam to Cambridge University. So he was interviewed once and asked, what is the application? What application does your pure mathematics have? What use is it? Does it have an application? And he says, I should hope not. Application is too grubby, too low down to have applications. So we Advaitins, we consider ourselves to be above the clouds. This is the highest, final, ultimate, the ultimate teaching. So from that perspective, I'll be a little critical. The bhakti approach, the devotional approach, beautiful and sweet, but it depends upon belief, faith. You cannot be a devotee, you cannot be a bhakta, you cannot be a lover of God if you start by being a committed atheist. It depends on accepting the existence of God. If you do not accept the existence of God, devotion will not work for you. The problem with that approach is in this day and age, it is very difficult. If you're a thinking person, you just listen to Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and Daniel Dennett and Sam Harris when they attack the concept of God and religion. You listen to them for half an hour, 1 hour a day, you will cleanse your mind of all religious nonsense. And they're going to vacuum your mind clean. So difficult in this day and age. We have, in this day and age, it's the largest number of atheists and agnostics that there ever have been in the entire history of humanity, this age that we are living in. Compared to this, the yogic approach says that not belief, but experience. This is what what made Narendranath into Vivekananda and what Vivekananda brought into this country. See, what did the young Narendranath go around doing in Calcutta in late 19th century? He went around asking people, have you seen God? He went to Sri Ramakrishna, and that's where he received the clearest answer, most convincing answer. Have you seen God? Not whether does God exist, or why do you believe in God? Do you believe, or why don't you believe in God? Have you seen God? And Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, just as I see you even more clearly. And you can too. So this is the promise of the yogic path, that not belief. They're not asking you to believe in God. If religion is true, it should be experienceable. If there's a God, I should be able to see God. If I have an immortal soul, I should be able to feel it and experience it. And Patanjali Yoga is a classic book of the yogic tradition, which says that you sit in this way, you breathe in this way, focus, withdraw your mind and senses in this way, meditate in this way, and I promise you, you will have certain extraordinary mystical experiences which will prove to you the claims of religion. So you will have these experiences, and these are all extraordinary experiences, samadhi, various types of samadhi. And this is what Vivekananda brought here. The first book he translated and published was his commentary on the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Raja Yoga, from New York. He said to the Americans in the late 19th century that religion is realization. Religion is not believing in a book. This was a new idea at that time, that you could actually experience God. It was there in Christianity all throughout. But what came to happen was people felt these mystical experiences are only for a few people. They are like the athletes of the spiritual world, not for the mass of people. There are going to be a few mystics, but for the rest, we have to just go to church and believe in what the pastor says and try to lead a good life, and that's it, and surrender. That's it. No, all of us can, should, must realize God, must experience God. That's the yogic promise. But there is, from an Advaitic perspective, you see, there is a problem with that too. The problem is this, that these experiences are special experiences. Sri Ramakrishna is having a vision of Kali. How many of us are having a vision of Kali? Even in that book, when you see the description of Sri Ramakrishna he's talking with the Divine Mother. But he is talking with the Divine Mother. Nobody else in that gathering is actually seeing the Divine Mother. So they believe that Sri Ramakrishna is having an experience with the Divine Mother. And they have Shraddha, belief, faith in that. What did people think of it? What have people thought about mystics throughout the ages? They're crazy. Most people during Sri Ramakrishna's lifetime, the people around, most of them thought he was this mad priest of Kali and Dakshineshwar. And that's true of all the mystics. Whenever they have it, in every religion, people around them, even religious people, would doubt their sanity. Mainly because we don't share those experiences. They are rare and difficult to get. And they're not public experiences. And today, especially in this day and age, the neuroscientist will tell you, I'm sure you feel one with the universe, or I'm sure you're seeing a divine light, or you're seeing forms, visions of God. I'm sure you're seeing that. But it's not because actually you're seeing God. It's because there's a little stroke on the left side of your brain and there's a little hemorrhaging there. And that is affecting your experience of the world. There was this very nice talk by this lady. She had a stroke. She was a neuroscientist. It's maybe one of the most watched TED Talks ever. And she wrote a book about it too. Because she was trained, she realized that I'm having a stroke. And she felt one with the universe. So are you actually one with the universe? No. You're just a human being having a stroke. So the neuroscientist will tell you there is something wrong with your brain. That's why. Or if you're in New York, especially after 5 p.m. in Central Park, you're high. So most people are. And so they're feeling one with the universe. And that's the problem with mystical experiences. There are genuine mystical experiences, but how do you know which are genuine and which are not? There are mystical experiences, seem to be mystical, born of nothing more than unfortunate mental illness, hallucination, drugs, or neurological problems, many kinds of things. So how do you know? Now, Advaita Vedanta says, not belief as in the path of bhakti, not special mystical experiences as in the path of yoga, but just our daily quotidian experiences, the experiences we have right now of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, of being the subject and experiencing the object, of being awake, dreaming and sleeping. So who does not have these experiences? Who has not experienced being awake or dreaming or sleeping? Everybody has. Who has not experienced the physical body and the subtle body? All of us, and all the time we experience it. Now, this is enough for the Advaitic inquiry to start. Advaita Vedanta says you just need whatever you already have, and then we will guide you step by step, logically. At every step, we will not tell you that there is some extraordinary thing. You do these practices, 25 years later, you may have that vision, and then you will see for yourself. Or none of that. You have to believe in it. None of that. It's available, and you can see right now, right here. This is the beauty of Advaita Vedanta. However, if all these teachings are too complicated, too subtle, Ashtavakra says, the bhakta has a great point. The faith is a great power. If you believe in what I'm saying, just simulate it. Suppose it's true what all these texts and all the masters are telling me. I am Brahman right now. I am pure awareness. And try to see what it looks like, the world and yourself. If you have, suppose you're already enlightened, you're a Jivan Mukta, what would it feel like? What would it be? How would you, as the enlightened person, react to it? React to the things in the world, the whatever is happening in your life and in the behavior of others. As Vivekananda says, I know I cannot die, therefore I am not in a hurry. I know I'm one with all of them, or are one with me. Imagine my happiness, and so on. So, Shraddhasva tata Shraddhasva. Just believe it. What is that phrase? Fake it till you make it. One might say, but doesn't Advaita Vedanta say it's not a question of belief? You must understand it. Well, the interesting thing about psychologically is, if you believe in it, if you take it, all right, let me take it as it is, that as suppose it is true. Let me take it that way. And I am Brahman right now. If you believe in it, if you have conviction in it, the process of understanding and realization becomes much easier. So, Shraddhasva tata Shraddhasva, natra moham kurushva bho. Do not be deluded on this point. This delusion, this confusion, who am I, what am I? This has these two forms in Advaita Vedanta. Let me talk about that a little bit. See, when we come to Advaita, there are actually three points of confusion, three kinds of questions which come up. First is, what is the teaching? All these books I'm seeing in the library, what are they telling me? Technically, this is called Pramana Samshaya. Pramana Samshaya means a doubt about the source of knowledge itself, about the teaching itself. So what exactly is Ashtavakra saying? What exactly are the Upanishads saying? What exactly is Shankaracharya saying? And how do you remove this? You remove this by studying, listening. So when we listen to the talks, when we attend retreats like this, when we read the book attentively, after some time, if you try to rehearse it in your own mind, if you try to repeat back the essential points as we gather them, that cloud begins to dispel. Now I have a clear idea about what the books are telling me. So that's the first step. Now that's set aside. We have already listened to it. But now two more problems come, two more questions, two more kinds of confusion. The second kind of confusion is, I know what the teaching is. I've heard the talks, but I don't get it. It's quite possible to know the teaching. I can even tell you, summarize what the book says, but there are many things I don't get. I know the book says you are Brahman. I know Advaita Vedanta can be summarized in one sentence. Brahman is real, the world is an appearance, and you are Brahman. Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya, Jiva Brahmaiva Napara. It can be summarized. I know all these things, but I don't understand it. So let's take up the questions one by one and deal with it. This not understanding, I know the teaching, but I don't understand it. This is called Prameya Sambhavana, the impossibility doubt. I don't see how I am Brahman. You are immortal. I don't see how I am immortal. You are all pervading. I don't see that. I'm just here. So these are serious doubts, and they have to be resolved by reasoning, and Vedanta will demonstrate. For example, the text that I'm going to teach in Phoenix, Advaita Makaranda, the honey of non-duality. So that deals with all of this. It starts with, I am Brahman. I exist. I am aware. I shine. I am happy. And that is Sat Chit Ananda. So how am I not Brahman? Brahman is existence, consciousness, bliss, right? And he says, look at yourself. Do you exist or not? Everyone will say, I do. Are you aware or not? Yes, I am aware. And are you happy? At least occasionally. Are you happy or not? Well, yes, I am happy. This is what Brahman is. Existence, consciousness, bliss, Satchidananda. So Katham Naham Brahma? How am I not Brahman? And then the questions will come. Wait a minute. It's true that I exist and I'm aware most of the time and happy some of the time. But Brahman is the cause of this universe. The books tell us that Brahman is the cause of the universe. The universe is produced from Brahman. Am I the cause of the universe? It's absolutely not true. And then he will explain what is meant by pure consciousness and how the universe is an appearance in pure consciousness. Then the next question will come. Yeah, I exist. See, I exist. But Brahman is eternal existence. I'm not eternal existence. I was born on that day, and I'm sure that I'm going to die on a particular day in the near future sometime. So my existence is entirely cut off. There was a time when I was not, there was a time when I will not exist. So how am I Brahman? Brahman is supposed to be eternal existence. That means immortal. Then the author will explain that as pure being or pure awareness, it's only the body which is born, the body which dies. But you have no proof, and he'll give arguments to show pure consciousness is not born. Pure consciousness does not die. Or pure being is not born, or pure being does not die. The next question will be, all right, but Brahman is supposed to be, pure consciousness. And I'm conscious now. After 2 hours of Vedanta lectures, I'm a little less conscious. And then after lunch, I'll be even less conscious. And at night, I'm not conscious at all. How is this Brahman? Brahman is endless awareness and limitless awareness. And then the author will explain that how these are states of the mind. You are that ever awake consciousness, witnessing the awake mind, the sleepy mind, the dreaming mind, and so on. Like this. So what's going on here? These are questions I have about the teaching. I know the teaching, but I have doubts about the teaching. And they are, how do you resolve them? Through reasoning and thinking it through, with the help of others, with the help of the teacher, with the help of the books, and also thinking it through for yourself till you get clarity. Now, what have we achieved? We have removed 2 of the problems. One is pramanagata samshaya, and this is prameya sambhavana, the impossibility regarding I am Brahman, and the doubts about the teaching itself. Both are removed now. I know the teaching, I understand it, I have got clarity now. Now what's the problem? It still doesn't seem to be a living truth to me. I still react to the world just like that old guy. The unhappiness, the misery, the restlessness, anger, all of that. I react to it like that old person. So to overcome the old tendencies of the body-mind, you have to meditate on that clarity, to marinate in it. Another term is familiarize yourself. The truth, you have understood it, you have got clarity. Stay with that clarity till it becomes, oh, it's a fact. How wonderful. Then you are enlightened. So this is natra moham kurushva bho. Sir, or my child, do not be confused on this point. Get rid of the 3 kinds of confusion. What is the teaching? I don't get it. Or I get it, I know the teaching and I get it, but it's not real for me, it's not living for me. All these 3 confusions get rid of. In Sanskrit, they are called pramanagata samshaya, prameya sambhavana, and viparita bhavana. Viparita bhavana is contrary tendencies. Then he says, Jnana Swarupa Bhagavan Atma. This phrase is profound and packed. Bhagavan, God. Bhagavan means God. Which God? The creator, preserver, destroyer of the universe, the one God worshipped by all theistic religions of the world. Why do I say theistic religions? Because there are religions which are not theistic. There are religions which are not concerned with God and do not worship God. Buddhism, Jainism. Even within Hinduism, you have something I mentioned, Sankhya. Sankhya doesn't talk about God. So yoga philosophy, there's God in yoga philosophy, but marginal. God is not the goal of yoga philosophy. Self-realization is the goal. So there are philosophies and religions which are non-theistic, but all the theistic religions of the world, they posit that there is an omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent deity. And it's one, which is the creator of the universe, the maintainer or preserver, sustainer of the universe, and ultimately the dissolver, destroyer of the universe. And then again, repeat. So this idea in different forms, it's there in all the theistic religions. He says Bhagavan. And then he says another term, Atma, self. What is the self? You, I. We are the self. And then he says, Bhagavan Atma Tvam. This Bhagavan and this self is one and the same. Is one and the same. How can it be one and the same? Bhagavan is omnipresent everywhere. I'm just here. If I go to my room, then I won't be here. You are there, but you're not here. We are limited. We are so small, not omnipresent. And God is omniscient, all-knowing. We are not all-knowing. We have what is called in Sanskrit, alpagya, very little knowledge. We struggle and struggle through school and college and get some knowledge and promptly forget it afterwards. Or even if you're the most knowledgeable, encyclopedic knowledge, a little bit of Alzheimer's, still gone. So our knowledge is very shaky and very limited. I think it was Einstein who said, as I know more, it's like I become aware of the shores of my ignorance, like being surrounded by an ocean. It's an ocean of knowledge out there, which I do not know. Only a little bit we know. We've pushed back the borders of human ignorance by getting a little bit of knowledge. So we have so little knowledge, and God is supposed to be omniscient. Elon Musk said he read through the entire Encyclopedia Britannica when he was a school kid. But even that's so little knowledge compared to what God knows. Swami Vivekananda, he actually memorized the Encyclopedia Britannica as leisure reading. In Belur Mutt, towards the end of his all too short life, one day he was sitting and reading the Encyclopedia Britannica, and his disciple Sharat Chandra Chakravarti came into his room, and he saw the whole set. And those days it was 10 volumes, but they are more impressive than these days. It's all disembodied and in the cloud or something, so you can't. But it's impressive to see 10 big volumes. They are all leather-bound big volumes. And the gentleman said to Swami Vivekananda, I don't think a man could read through all of this in one lifetime. Vivekananda said, what are you talking about? I have read through 9 of these volumes. I'm on the 10th. You can ask me any question from these 9 volumes. Not only read through it, but you can ask me any question. And Sharat Chandra goes ahead and he checks it out. He asks question at random, puts out the volumes and checks here and there. Was it Sharat Chandra or one of the disciples? Maybe Sharat Chandra or one of the other disciples. This has happened in India, in Calcutta. So he pulls out the volumes here and there and asks questions. And he writes later in his memoirs that the Swami answered every question, often down to the comma and the full stop, in the same language. And he asks, incredible, this is incredible. How is this possible? And Swami Vivekananda said, by the power of purity and concentration, it's possible. But even that is limited knowledge. God's knowledge is omniscient, and our knowledge is so little. And omnipotent. God can do anything, but our power is so limited, so weak. Even at our strongest, even at our most competent, we're still so weak and so incapable. How can Bhagavan Atma, how can you the self be Bhagavan? It's completely contradictory. Then what does it mean? What it means is, what is Bhagavan and what are you? What we are, we can already say. I am the witness consciousness. I am not the body, not the mind. I am the witness of the body, witness of the mind. I am this awareness itself. This awareness quoted by this mind and this body is you. That same awareness quoted by this mind and this body is Sarvapriyananda. And it's him, it's her, it's all of us. It's all living beings, all human beings, all animals, plants, all sentient beings are that same consciousness quoted with a particular mind and body. At birth, that body is born, but the mind has been existing since time immemorial. It comes downloaded into that body. When that body perishes, that same mind, it travels, it's to another world and another body and so on and so forth. This is called rebirth, cycle of birth and death. And what is Bhagavan? What is God? It is that same consciousness which is connected to all bodies and all minds. Technically, I can give you the definitions. Again, the book Vedanta Sara, which I mentioned yesterday, it's all there. It's all basic, what is called Mahavakya Vichara, an analysis of the great statements that thou art. So what is God according to Vedanta? What is the sentient being Jiva according to Vedanta? Samashti Ajnana Upahita Chaitanyam Ishwaraha. Consciousness associated with Maya, with the totality, with Maya, with the cosmic mind and the physical cosmos, that is God. And Vyashti Ajnana Upahita Chaitanyam is Jiva. The sentient being is one part of that Maya and one mind and one body, same consciousness, limited by one little causal body, one subtle body, and one physical body. That's a Jiva, each one of us. That's the thing. But suppose you set aside the contributions of nature, set aside the physical body, the subtle body, the causal body, take the consciousness in itself. Then what happens? Bhagavan and Atma, you are one and the same. If you take consciousness in itself, awareness in itself, then God and you are one and the same. It's like the emperor and the beggar in a Broadway show. So there's an emperor with all his finery and all his grand dialogues and everything, and surrounded by his glory. And there is the beggar in rags and weeping and bemoaning his fate and his poverty. But suppose there's this one great Broadway actor who is acting in a double role as the emperor and as the beggar. He goes into the green room and changes into the clothes of the emperor, comes out and speaks grandly and struts around the stage, goes back into the green room, changes into his tattered clothes and comes and is a beggar. And you say the beggar is the emperor. Now somebody can ask you legitimately, how can the beggar be the emperor? Don't you see the clothes are different? Don't you see how this man walks and then that man walks? Don't you see how this person speaks and how the beggar speaks? Their lines, their dialogue is different, their clothes are different, their behavior is different. How can they be the same? What do you mean? The emperor is not really an emperor. The beggar is not really a beggar. It's a play. Behind both emperor and beggar is one man, the actor. Similarly, if you look in the green room, you will find one consciousness. When you come to this world, you will find the sentient being yourself and God. But you are the sentient being and you are that which is called God also. Bhagavan Atma. How do you reconcile the two? The first word, Jnana Swarupa, pure consciousness. As pure consciousness, in association with Maya, you are called Bhagavan. As pure consciousness, in association with this causal body, subtle body, and physical body, you are called Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so. This is Mahavakya. Mahavakya, great statement. What are the great statements? Tattvamasi, that thou art. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness. This very consciousness is Brahman, ultimate reality of the universe. I am Atma Brahma. This very self is Brahman. They all mean the same thing. All of these Mahavakyas, they mean the same thing. Mahavakya, great statement. This is a great statement. What is the definition of a great statement? Mahavakya. Jiva Brahma Aikyam, that which establishes the identity of the individual sentient being and of the cosmic Lord of Brahman. That which establishes the identity. That is called a great statement. So conventionally, we take four, one from each of the four Vedas. But there are any number of such statements across the Vedas and across these texts. Everywhere you find this a great identity or the great equation, somebody called it. What is the identity? Jnana Swarupo Bhagavan Atma. Bhagavan Atma, God, and you the self. Same. How? Jnana Swarupa, as pure consciousness. And he tells us how to equate the two. Prakrite Paraha. If you transcend nature, beyond nature, they are the same. When you come within nature, same consciousness, same electricity flowing through a 1,000,000 power bulb. Same electricity. What in India we used to have something called a zero power bulb. I don't know if I've not seen it in America. It's a very, very dim light. But there are these ones nowadays, they are near the floor in many rooms you find. Just gives a little bit of illumination at night. So like that. But it's the same electricity. The difference is in the capacity of the bulbs. You have a light which lights up a stadium, blazing light. It can be seen from outer space, from orbit. That kind of light. And you have the tiny little light at the corner room. You can barely see it at night. But then behind it is the same electricity. You are not that bulb. You are that electricity itself. And he said, you say that I don't really get it. I mean, it's tremendous, but what can I do with this? Shraddhaswata Shraddhaswa. Believe in it, my child. Believe in it and see what happens. Then we're almost out of time. It's supposed to end at
20 minutes.
Yeah, 1:15. Supposed to end at
1:15.
1:15. Okay. Look at the consequence of it. 9 and 10. Now we're going to see the results of all of this. What benefit do I get? First of all, you go beyond death. You lose fear of death. Number 9. Gunai samveshtito deha. Gunai samveshtito deha. Tishtatyayati yati cha. Tishtatyayati yati cha. Atma naganta naganta. Atma naganta naganta. Kimenam manushochasi. Kimenam manushochasi. The body composed of the ingredients of nature comes, stays, and goes. The self neither comes nor goes. Why then do you mourn it? This body, made of the 3 gunas of nature, sattva, rajas, tamas, made of the 5 elements, space and wind and air and fire and water and earth, or how many elements is it now in the periodic table? It keeps increasing. So what, 120, 140 elements, whatever. All the elements in the periodic table. This body is a composite made of all of that. So is the mind. It comes, it stays for a while, it goes. But you are the limitless consciousness in which these elements have arisen. Arisen means they have not come out of you, they are appearing in you. And a combination of those elements, these worlds have arisen, appearing in you. These bodies have arisen, appearing in you. They are born, these bodies age, and then they die. You are the same. The wave appears in you, the ocean, it rises to a height and then begins to subside and then it fades away. You are the same ocean. You're neither increased nor diminished by the arising and the subsiding of the waves. Ashtavakra will say that Tvai ananta mahambodo vishwa vichi swabhavata udetu vastamayatu name vriddhi navakshati. In you, the infinite ocean of consciousness, the waves of these worlds arise. Let them arise, let them subside. You are neither increased nor diminished by that. Let birth come, you are not increased by that. Let aging and disease come and death come, you are not diminished by that. Let success come, wealth, education, winning the election or something, you're not increased by that. The same ocean wave has come up. Let failure and poverty and loss come, you're not diminished by that. Same ocean, just the wave has gone down. And Advaita says it's a fact right now. This is the best, clearest, most honest depiction of what's going on. These are appearances in you, the consciousness. What is the self? It neither comes nor goes. Atma na ganta na aganta. It's not something that goes away, not something that comes. Body comes, welcome. It stays for a while and keeps on changing. Good. It goes away. Goodbye. You are there all the time. You are there before the body, during the body, and afterwards. But the body doesn't exist without you, like a body in the dream. Kimenam manushochasi. What are you weeping for? What are you afraid of? The psychologist R.D. Lane, he was a British psychologist in 1950s, 60s. He famously said that human beings are afraid of, we are all afraid of the three great fears of our lives. These common fears, the deepest and strongest fears of our lives. First and foremost, the fear of death. It dominates our lives. It's not true. It's just a cliche. I hardly think of death, of my death. Usually, I hardly think of that. Well, that's because you're suppressing it. You know, he was a Freudian psychoanalyst. So in Freudian psychoanalysis, nobody is normal. If you say, but I have no problems. Ah, serious problem. You're suppressing all of your problems. I'm not thinking about death. Huh? You're dead scared of death. That's why you're impossible. You find it impossible to think about death. There's this book, The Denial of Death, Ernst Becker. He got a Pulitzer Prize for it quite a long time back. It's based on psychoanalysis. But he says, all our lives are guided. This one thing haunts us, although we refuse to acknowledge it. It's like a ghost always there. We refuse to look at it. The fear of our own death. And he says, whatever human beings do, they're all as a reaction to that fear, as a fight back against the fear of death, and all are doomed to failure. What do we do? Everything that you do, from having children to building a business empire to writing a book to whatever, he calls them all immortality projects. Immortality projects. Somehow I will persist. But will you persist? What you are, this person? No. Vivekananda says, death is everywhere. Emperors die and paupers die. Scholars die and fools die. Saints die and sinners die. All will die. But you will not. There's no question of your death. Both birth and death, you are the witness to both. They are all possible, birth and death, because of you. You exist. They borrow their existence from you. The body borrows its existence from you. So, what are you sad about? So, what are the three things we are all scared of? First, death, Ernst Becker said. Second thing we are all scared of is other people. So that's not true. We are scared of other people, especially people in our lives. People, first, most obviously, people you consider to be enemies or who can threaten you, who can cause you harm. You know, the troublesome neighbor, the terrorist or the gangster, but also someone like who can seriously harm you, like your boss who can lay you off, or we're afraid of them. Like the teacher who can give me a F, or even scold me or humiliate, somebody who can scold me or humiliate me in public. We're afraid of these people. Almost everybody. Again, even more interesting, we are afraid of people we love because they can cause harm to us. They can, not that they would want to, but they can, because you love them, you're vulnerable. Anything happens to them, your wife, husband, children, parents, you love them. Because you love them, anything happens to them, you suffer terribly. Often in the world, people suffer more for the sufferings of their beloved people rather than themselves. Their parents, all the time, are consumed by anxiety and worry, not so much for themselves, for the children, who couldn't care less, really. Here's one great thing to learn. You as parents, those who are parents, one great release. You need not be so unhappy or so worried or frustrated or anxious. It's needless, because the people you are anxious about or worried about, they are not all that worried at all. You keep on imagining imaginary threats, problems. So we are afraid of other people. Enemies, people who can harm us, people who are beloved to us and close to us. We're afraid of them because of them. And then third, afraid of people. The French existentialist Sartre famously said that definition of hell is other people. Hell is other people. It's there in a play. Hell is other people. Imagine if you're locked up in a room with a group of people and there's no escape from that room, very soon you would feel that those people are hell. They feel the same way about you. I remember this monk in our order, a senior monk, very wonderful Swami who's done a lot of work in our order. He told me a personal story. He said, when I was a novice monk many, many decades ago, I was in this ashram. It was quite tough, the monastery. And there was this great Swami I would write letters to, Swami Dhireshananda, who was in our ashram in Kankal, Haridwar. He was a great non-dualist, great, a saintly person. So this monk said I would write letters to him. In those days, postcards, and that would in some way that was a good time, because it would take 15 days or 1 month for your letter to reach, and then another month for that to come back. It gives you enough time to cool down and reflect. So once I was very unhappy, and I wrote to him, I can't bear these people, the people in the ashram. They're treating me badly and I'm suffering. I can't bear these people. In Bengali, আমি আর সহ্য করতে পারছি না, আমি এদের সহ্য করতে পারছি না. And he wrote to that monk, and then a reply came, and he said, I was expecting sympathy or advice, how to deal with these problems. There's only one line. Remember, they are also bearing with you. মনে রেখো তারা তোমাকে সহ্য করছে. You don't think that we are unbearable, awful people, but we are. Take it from me. Each of us, in the eyes of at least a few others. You might be astonished. I'm such a nice guy. Why would people dislike me? They do. And in their eyes, for pretty good reasons. So, we are afraid of other people. And the third thing we are afraid of, according to Lane, is our mortality, afraid of other people, and our own minds. We are afraid of our own minds. We are afraid of ourselves. Ourselves, basically our own minds. What we might think, what we might do to ourselves and others. What's the next crazy thing that I will do? Or I'll just not measure up to my own expectations. That's also there. It's me. I'm afraid of myself. And Advaita solves all of those problems. How? That's your homework. Think about it. It solves the problem of mortality, solves the problem of other people by showing you that they are not other people, they're yourself. And it solves the problem of the mind by saying, you are that in which the mind appears like a bubble, a wave. It's nothing apart from you and it's nothing to you. Then next, number 10. Dehastishtatu kalpantam. Dehastishtatu kalpantam. Gacchatvadhyaiva va punaha. Gacchatvadhyaiva va punaha. Kva vriddhi kva cha vahani. Kva vriddhi kva cha vahani. Chinmatra rupinaha. Chinmatra rupinaha. Sorry, I missed one thing. Kva vriddhi kva cha vahani. Kva vriddhi kva cha vahani. Tava chinmatra rupinaha. Tava chinmatra rupinaha. Let the body last to the end of the cycle, millions and billions of years. Suppose you live immortal, practically. Or let it go even today. Let the body die today. Let death come today, right now. Where is there any decrease or in you who are pure consciousness? You should be perfectly equanimous. From that perspective, there is nothing more that I want to achieve through this body and mind. Oh, at least Vedanta. Vedanta does not require this body and mind. Vedanta only requires you to be pure consciousness, which you have now you have understood this. So this body and mind is the Lord's, and it goes on. As far as your past karma is there, what is called prarabdha karma, or as the Lord's wish is there, this body, mind embodiment will go on. As long as it goes on, be a blessing to yourself and everybody else. And when the Lord wills that this particular drama should end, you should go back to the green room, happily. It's nothing to you. It's a fiction in the limitless consciousness that you are. So will you disappear? Not at all. You will remain in your real nature, the infinite existence consciousness bliss, which you are right now. So it says, Dehastishtatu, let the body stay. Sometimes people say that, I don't want to live any longer. It's awful, miserable. That's ignorance. That's ignorance. That's still strong body identification. That's why suicide is discouraged. I recently did a little TV spot for Suicide Watch, and they had approached spiritual teachers. They, of course, told us what to say. Don't kill yourself. That's our message number one. Number two is that dial this number. They're going to help you and things like that. So suicide is strongly discouraged. That shows strong body identification. Or let it stay for ages, hundreds of years, thousands of years. Let this body survive. I was once approached just a couple of years back, last year. I was approached by Hollywood. not the ashram, the film industry. And they said, how would you like to be in a film with William Shatner? I said, wow, that's great. We grew up as little kids in India. We had only 2 shows from America at that time. One was Star Trek, the original series with William Shatner as Captain Kirk. And the other was I Love Lucy. So why would I not want to be in a film with Captain Kirk? So there's this thing called, I think it's on History Channel or Discovery, the History Channel. It's called The Unexplained. And in season 2, there was the mysteries of the yogis who can live for a long time, 100 years, 200 years, the secrets of immortality. And so I agreed and I was interviewed, but I never got to see William Shatner. He is the host. So there are a lot of interviews and he pulls them together and he hosts the people in the movie people. They told me that, see, we'll try to get you to meet with William Shatner, but he is probably the oldest living and active actor in Hollywood. So he pretty much does what he wants to. So you can't really. He went to space also recently in a rocket. Finally, Captain Kirk went to space. So in that interview, they asked me, how did yogis live to be 100 years, 200 years? I gave them the example of Trailanga Swami, who was in Benares. Sri Ramakrishna met him. Swami Vivekananda, the Holy Mother, they all met him. And he lived, 240 years. Now, that's not an exaggeration because there are multiple records testifying to him. It was the period of the British rule. So they were, the British government testified to seeing him over the decades. And so anyway, I talked about that and I told them, you don't have to live in this body. You are the immortal consciousness anyway. They were not interested in that. And I saw the actual show, they had cut out those parts. All the Vedanta. But they had kept all the yogis living for hundreds of years. That's what they found fascinating. Let it stay for hundreds of years. Or let it die today. Let the body die today. I'm completely unaffected by it. It's nothing to me. Vivekananda says, just as a hair falls from the head and it's bald, I'd be happy if all the hair fell from my head permanently. But the hair falls from the head, it's nothing to you. Similarly, when one body goes, it's nothing to you, the soul, the Atman. Hundreds and thousands of bodies have come and gone. We are, if nothing else, we are masters of dying. We have died many, many, many times in the past. We've just got it down like that. It's so don't be at all afraid of dying. There's no increase in you if you have a body. There's nothing that you lose if the body goes. You are pure consciousness. All right. We'll take a little bit of time. The questions, the 3 people who wanted to ask questions. Yes, I can start with online. The other 3 people who wanted to ask questions, please come here. And we will send the microphone to you.
It is said that even Shiva, who is Ananda himself, wanted to feel Ananda as an object to be experienced, creates the universe with all its dualities. So how do Jivan Muktas, who have realized supreme detachment and actualized Brahma Satyam Jagat Vidya, feel happiness for themselves or compassion for others? Because now all life is of the nature of one single face for them. Where is the joy in non-duality?
If all of it is non-dual and one, it's all one with you. Imagine your happiness, as Vivekananda says. I know that all are one with me. Imagine my happiness. Or every living being is I. It's in oneness that there is happiness. What do you do when you want to be happy? What do you do when you want to have some pleasure? Right? The object of pleasure, a cookie. What do you do with it? You make it one with yourself. Put it into your tummy. It must touch my tongue. When I want to see a beautiful sight, what do? I go and put it in contact with my eyes. Oneness. Happiness always requires you to become one with the object of your happiness. And if you know you are one with the entire universe, imagine your happiness. There is also the difference to be considered between what is known as Vritti Ananda and Swarupa Ananda. The happiness which is experienced with the help of the mind and the senses. I taste something that gives me a burst of happiness. I think a happy thought, and that gives me a burst of happiness. That's something that comes and goes, that arises and then diminishes and fades away. That can be more or less. But Advaita talks about the source of all happiness, which is you, the Atman. That existence, that consciousness is also Ananda, limitless existence consciousness, please. Only a little bit of that is reflected in our day-to-day happinesses, all of these little happinesses which come and go. The Ananda, which the Ananda of Satchidananda, does not come and go. It's always there. Does not increase and decrease. It does not depend on an object to be enjoyed. It's the difference between, so the question was, if it's all one, what about this particular happinesses which we enjoy? Those particular happinesses, like the reflection of my face in the mirror. Now, the desire to enjoy those particular happinesses is like the desire to keep on reflecting my face in the mirror. I see my face in the mirror. Occasionally, you might see your face in the mirror. But if you say, I am anxious about it all the time with great care, I want to maintain the face in the mirror, that's lunacy. What is our normal state of mind? Sometimes I may see my face in the mirror. Sometimes I may not. I have no anxiety about my face. It's there, I know. I don't need to see it all the time. Similarly, I am that limitless happiness. I don't need to keep reflecting it in the mirror of the mind and to experience it as an object, if that makes sense. So now the question is the non-dualist, the enlightened one, happy or not? Well, direct answer, very happy. Don't worry about it. You'll be very, very happy when you are enlightened. Let's have these questions. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Pranam Swamiji. My name is Pramod.
Pramod means happiness.
My question is, what does progress for a layperson who's on the path of Advaitic meditation, what does it look like? I'm assuming it starts initially with a glimpse of this non-conceptual awareness, and I'm assuming that the glimpse will become like more stabilized or like will be longer, and eventually does it get to a point where somebody, when they're doing a normal task, like a day-to-day task, can actually do that without like the ego, or like without a conceptual view of what is being done?
Yes. Does it get stabilized over time? It does. It's actually quite a deep subject. You are Pramod. When you were given that name, it took you a little bit of time to get familiarized with it. But now it is effortless. You don't need to practice being Pramod in the morning and evening. You know, my daily Pramod meditation. I am Pramod, I am Pramod, I am Pramod. Just in case that I don't forget. No, you don't forget, and you don't put any effort into it. Although that's something that's imposed upon you, because it's a name that was given to you. And that has become so effortless that I am Brahman becomes effortless like that. No practice is needed to maintain it. That's the goal. That's what we have. That's where we have to reach. Or actually, the fact is that that's where we are at, but we don't recognize that fact. I remember a similar question was asked by a young monk to a spiritual master in Haridwar. I was there. This young monk asked the master, the teacher, in Hindi, Aham Brahmasmi, ye gyan to kam se kam pakad ke rakhna chahiye. I am Brahman. At least we should hold on to that knowledge. This realization, what the beautiful things that Ashtavakra is telling us. To boil it down, basically, I am limitless awareness. I must at least hold on to that, right? This is the gain, the takeaway from this. And the master said, with equal vehemence, he said, Wahi to nahi pakad ke rakhna hai. That's what you must not hold on to. As long as you're holding on to that, it's a practice. How much effort do you put in practicing Pramod, being Pramod? Nothing. No effort at all. It would be wasted time for you. So that is what we must reach towards. There's a story about, one of those nice little stories about Ashtavakra and Janaka. One day, Janaka was sitting, after listening to all this, sitting on the bank of the river and meditating and practicing. I am Brahman, I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. Ashtavakra looked at him and came and sat down next to him. Now, and this is a little difficult to explain. Wandering monks in India, they have a little stick, like a danda, which is with a crescent shape where they can put their hand and do the japa with the rosary and everything. And they have a water pot. The stick is called danda. Sometimes it's called Jnana Danda and all. So Danda. And the water pot is called Kamandalu. Kamandalu is a water pot, a brass water pot. Monks walk around carrying this stuff. I don't know, today they might be carrying mobile phones and stuff, but this is traditionally what a monk is supposed to carry. So he sat down, Ashtavakra, next to Janaka with the danda, the stick, and the water pot. And Janaka is saying, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. And Ashtavakra said, Dand hai, Kamandalu hai, Dand hai, Kamandalu hai. This is a stick, this is a pot, this is a stick, this is a pot. And Janaka looked at him quizzically and glared at him and started chanting loudly, I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. He started chanting even more loudly, Dand hai, Kamandalu hai, Dand hai, Kamandalu hai. And finally, Janaka got exasperated. He said, who doesn't know that's a stick and this is a pot? What are you doing? And Ashtavakra said, exactly. What are you doing? All right. But this is the final. This is when you have no more problems at all. But before that, if we have problems with this, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Don't worry about small glimpses, persisting glimpses. Go back to listening. Go back to reasoning and stay with that listening. And what you get from that listening, what you get from that reasoning, try to stay with it. There are techniques of Vedantic meditation, of course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Pranamji, Swami.
What's
You
your
help
name?
a lot of people deal with problems. So first of all, thank you. My question is
What's
about,
your name?
my name is Anup.
Anup.
My question is about aparoksha anubhuti. Why is it called aparoksha anubhuti and why is it not pratyaksha anubhuti?
So there is a text called Aparoksha Anubhuti, which literally means, if I translate it very literally, usually it is translated as direct realization. It would mean non-indirect experience. So what is this direct, indirect, non-indirect, etc.? Pratyaksha is direct perception. So if you're seeing, that's pratyaksha. The Sanskrit word pratyaksha, aksha means eyes. And in general, it stands for all the five sense organs. Literally the eyes, but all the five sense organs. Pratyaksha, that which appears to your sense organs. So that which you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, all of that is called pratyaksha. In English, sensory perception or just perception. But there are a lot of things which we do not perceive, but we know them. We read about them in our science books, in our geography books, things which are far away from us. We read about in geography books or see it on the internet. There are things which are remote from us in the past. We read about it in history books. So we do not see them. We do not hear of them. They're either separated from us in space or they're separated from us by time. But we have knowledge of them. So that kind of knowledge which we do not gain from our sense organs is called paroksha, beyond the range of our senses. It could be physically beyond the range of our senses, maybe far away, or maybe very tiny, like atoms which we can't see, or the COVID virus, we cannot see it. Paroksha, because it's too tiny to see. Or it could be things like heaven and God. How did you know there's a God or heaven, if you do know at all? Well, the holy books told us. That's paroksha, that is beyond the range of our senses. So these are the two kinds of knowledge that we have, pratyaksha and paroksha. But you exist, I exist. How do I know that? Do I see myself? If you ask, Swami, is Anup there? I'll say, yes. How do you know? Because I see him. Now, if you ask, Swami, are you there? Are you here? I say, yes. If you ask, how do you know? Will I say, because I see myself. Let me take a look. Yeah, I am here. Do I ever do that? For Anup, I'll do that. I'll see, oh yeah, he's here. But for myself, I'll never take a look. Or sometimes this is so pratyaksha. For me, I don't need pratyaksha to know that I exist. Is it paroksha? Even less so. Who all attended? Take a look at the list of attendees. Or these people. Was Anup there? Yes, his name is there. He's signed here. He's here. Was I there? Let me see. Have I signed? So I must have been there. That might be true in the past if I don't remember. But right now, let me see the list of people. Yes, I am here because clearly it says so. That's paroksha. But do I depend on that for knowing I am here? No. Then how do I know I am here? It's not pratyaksha. Not by seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Yes, I am here. No. Not by paroksha, by reading something, by being told by somebody else. Let me ask you, do you think I'm here? Yes, Swami, you are here. Okay, so I must be here. I don't do that. How do I know I am here? This is called aparoksha. Not pratyaksha, not direct, not perception, not indirect knowledge also, not paroksha. This is pratyaksha. This is aparoksha. This is called a direct knowledge of myself. So it's used in a double negative sense. Paroksha, not paroksha, not indirect. Here also there is a slight refinement that can be and should be done. The realization of the self, Atma, that I'm pure consciousness, is not even aparoksha actually, if you look even closer. What is direct? Thoughts. Pain. I feel pain. How do you feel it? Do you see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it? No. Do you think about it? Do you imagine it? It's like a nurse. Nowadays, they ask a pain question. It's new, I saw in the hospital. They'll take your blood pressure, your pulse rate, oxygen level. That also is new addition after COVID, I think. And then what else do they take? Your weight or something like that. And now they ask pain. Are you in any pain? If you say no, fine. 0, they'll put. If you say yes, then 1 to 10, I think. That's paroksha. The doctor will ask, is the patient in pain? Okay, 1 to, he said 6. Yeah, the patient is in pain. That's paroksha. But the patient himself or herself, does the person have to look at the scale and say, it says I'm in pain, so I think I'm in pain? No, directly, without sense organs. I'm unhappy. Even more clear. How do you know that? That is aparoksha. Directly in consciousness, unhappiness arises. Consciousness, pain arises. That is aparoksha. If you make that aparoksha, then the consciousness itself, the self itself, how do you know that? So there's a new term for, not a new term, very ancient term from the Upanishads, sakshad aparoksha. Direct and immediate. That's why it's called aparoksha. The last person.
Namaste, Swamiji. And I'm so happy to see you in person. My name is Sailaja. My question is, before this knowledge, I was a Vyakti, so acted accordingly. But
I was a
Vyakti,
individual.
a person.
A person, an individual.
Yes. So after a lot of understanding, listening, and intuitively knowing that I'm a Sakshi, there is still a confusion on how to deal with one's own emotions and how to deal with unfairness, how to go about in the world. Basically, they say a sad saint is a bad saint. So I wanted to have a summary on how a Sakshi would act in this world when the choice making is, you have to make choices in certain situations and all that.
Right. So first of all, how do you act in this world? First answer, important point, normal, be normal. I've had people who are very enthusiastic about these teachings. Somebody wrote to me, that one limitless consciousness, which is you yourself, in and through this particular body with the name of Mishra, is writing to you. Just say Mr. Mishra. Don't do that. Be absolutely normal. Sri Ramakrishna said about this answer to this question that there was a clerk. Remember, this was British times. There was a clerk who was jailed for something. Then he was let out of the jail. What will he do? In Bengali, he said, "She ki dhei dhei kore nachbe naki keranigiri korbe." Will he go back to his clerkship or will he dance around? He may dance around for a little while and free. But afterwards, he'll go back to his job, his being a clerk again. That means like it's a very normal, humdrum, low-key job. Similarly, be normal, be ordinary. The great master Padma Sambhava, he was asked by an old man who served him and then asked him a question. Master, I am old. My days are not long. I'm also uneducated and I'm not done any spiritual practices. Give me an instruction by which I will become enlightened. So there's a very short one-page instruction. If you Google it, you'll find it very beautiful. Highest teachings, direct path teachings like Advaita Vedanta. It's in what's called Dzogchen Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. So there, the name of the teaching is pointing the staff at the heart of the old man. Pointing the staff at the heart of the old man. So Padma Sambhava, the great master who took Tibetan Buddhism to Tibet, before leaving, he lifted his staff and he pointed it at the old man and he said a few words. It's less than one page. Direct teachings that you are the Buddha nature yourself, things like that. Very nice. At the end of it, he gave some practical advice because that old man said, I'm a householder and I have not done any spiritual practice. I'm old and soon I will die. And I'm not very educated also. Please teach me in simple words so that I'll be enlightened right now. So he gave some practical advice. Advice like, do not think too much about your children. Do not waste time in gossip. Do not concern yourself too much in matters of health and wealth. And then last but not least, always aim to die an ordinary person. I never found this teaching anywhere. That is important. We are trying to be extraordinary. That also gets us into trouble. It's good. This is a teaching for a mature person. Remember, if I was talking to college students, I would always encourage them and be great and try your best and excel and all of that is very important. But after some amount of maturity, if you're a spiritual seeker, as far as your worldly life is concerned, aim to die an ordinary person. Then that sets you free because you're not ordinary. You are the most extraordinary thing in the universe. But don't try to make that person extraordinary. All right. Now with that, so to answer to your question is, how do you deal with unfairness? How do you deal with different emotions in the mind? First of all, don't try to deal with them. Be centered in your own nature as limitless consciousness awareness. From there, now you deal with that person who's being unfair to you. Who is that person? It's you yourself. Look at the storms in the mind, the unhappiness, frustration, restlessness. What are those? Those are waves in the ocean that you are. See, all these questions come up if we are not firmly, properly fixed in our real nature as limitless consciousness. If you are that, if even clarity is there, these questions will answer themselves by themselves. Look, what Ashtavakra is doing here. I am limitless consciousness, immortal. What about fear of death? He says, let the body stay, let it die. What is it to you? So how will I actually deal? Common sense. Common sense. When the story is there, when Shankara is walking down the lane in a village and a mad elephant charges, he climbs a tree. And then somebody asks him, but you are Brahman. Why did you run away from the elephant and climb a tree? He said, you know that, I know that, but does the elephant know it? That I am Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna's story of the Mahout and the elephant and so on. So anyway, so that's the answer. Be ordinary, use common sense, but the direct answer to that is first be centered in your nature as I am Brahman. You'll see all the answers will come very easily. Either it will not matter to you and you'll also know the skillful way of handling day-to-day work. Yes, thank you so much. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanastu